I watched my son's hands tremble as he reached for the water glass. That's when I knew tonight would change everything. We were at the Rosedale Country Club, Vancouver's most exclusive venue, where memberships cost more than most people's cars. The annual summer charity gala, black tie, 200 guests. Orchestra playing softly in the background. My son David sat beside his wife Victoria, and I was 3 seats down, close enough to see everything but far enough to be forgettable. That was the point, wasn't it? To be forgettable. The man in the simple, rented tuxedo. The one who arrived alone. The one whose place card read William Chen, guest of David Chen, in that subtle font that screamed +1, not member. Catherine Thornhill held court at the head of our table like a queen surveying her subjects. Victoria's mother, my daughter-in-law's mother, 62 years old, face pulled tight from what I counted as her 3rd facelift, dripping in diamonds that caught every flicker of candlelight. Her husband, Gregory, sat beside her, nodding at appropriate intervals, a man who'd learned long ago that silence was survival. "Darling," Catherine's voice cut through the ambient chatter, sharp as crystal, "you simply must tell everyone about the renovation. Gregory, show them the pictures." Victoria beamed. My daughter-in-law had her mother's taste for attention. "Oh yes, we just redid the master suite. Italian marble, all custom. The contractor said it's the finest work he's done in 20 years. "How lovely," someone murmured. Catherine's smile was a weapon. Of course, we spared no expense for our Victoria, only the best for our daughter. Her eyes slid to David, lingered, moved on. Even if she did marry into more modest circumstances. My son's jaw tightened. I'd seen that look before. The look of a man swallowing words that would poison him if he kept them down too long. I should explain how we got here. Let me take you back 6 months. David met Victoria at a gallery opening in Gastown. She was everything. He wasn't polished, connected, comfortable in rooms where a glass of wine cost $50. He was a freelance photographer, scraping by, passionate about his work but realistic about his income. I'd raised him alone after his mother died when he was 12. Cancer, fast and merciless. For 14 years, it had been just the 2 of us. I worked as a maintenance supervisor at a downtown office tower. Started at 6 in the morning, finished at 2 in the afternoon. Good benefits, decent pay. Enough to give David a solid childhood, put him through community college, help him start his photography business. What David didn't know, what I'd never told him, was what came before the maintenance job. Before his mother got sick, I was CFO of Brightwater Capital, one of Canada's largest venture capital firms. I'd helped build companies, made investments that turned millions into hundreds of millions. When my wife got her diagnosis, I stepped back, spent every moment I could with her. After she died, I couldn't go back. The board meetings, the power plays, the endless pursuit of more, it all felt hollow. So I took the maintenance job, kept my shares in Brightwater, stayed on as a silent partner with voting rights, lived modestly, raised my son, found peace in simple work, in being present, in watching David grow into a good man. David knew I'd worked in finance before. That's it. He thought I'd been let go, too old, outdated. I never corrected him. Pride is a strange thing. I was prouder of the man I'd become, the father who showed up, who listened, who was there, than the executive I'd been. Then Victoria entered our lives like a storm in designer heels. The courtship was fast. 3 months from first date to engagement. Catherine made her disapproval clear from the start. But Victoria was headstrong. "I love him, Mother. You'll just have to accept it." I met Catherine twice before the wedding. The first time, she looked me up and down like I was something stuck to her shoe. A maintenance supervisor. How? Practical. The second time, at the rehearsal dinner, she'd had 3 martinis. "At least Victoria's marrying for love," she announced to the room. "Lord knows it's not for money." Laughter rippled through her friends. David's face went red. I put my hand on his shoulder, squeezed gently. "Not worth it, son." But it wore on him. 6 months of marriage, and I watched my son shrink. Victoria would mention their apartment was small compared to what I grew up with. Catherine would drop comments about David's quaint little photography hobby at family dinners. Gregory would write checks for Victoria's shopping sprees while making pointed remarks about supporting one's family. David started apologizing. For everything. For his work schedule, for not affording the right restaurants, for me, his father, who cleaned buildings for a living while his mother-in-law wore jewelry worth more than our annual combined income. I told him once, "David, you're a good man doing honest work. Never apologize for that." He'd smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I just wish I could give her more, Dad. She deserves better." No, I thought but didn't say. She deserves exactly what she is. Back to the gala. The speeches were over. Dinner had been served, some kind of fish with foam that cost $200 a plate. Catherine was on her fourth glass of champagne, her voice growing louder, her filter dissolving like sugar in hot water. "You know," she said, too loud, drawing attention from neighboring tables. "I was just thinking, David, dear, what exactly do you do again? Photography, is it?" My son nodded. "Yes, Catherine. Mostly commercial work. Some weddings." "Weddings," she laughed, sharp and brittle. "How charming. You take pictures of other people's happy days." She leaned forward, her diamonds catching light. "Tell me, how much does that pay? I'm genuinely curious. Is it enough to support my daughter in the manner she's accustomed to?" Victoria touched her mother's arm. "Mom, maybe we should." No, I want to know." Catherine's eyes were bright with malice disguised as interest. "I mean, Victoria tells me you bring in, what, 30,000 a year? 40? The table went silent, 200 people in the room, but all I could hear was David's breathing beside me. "It varies," David said quietly. "Depending on the season. Of course it varies." Catherine waved her hand dismissively. "That's the trouble with artistic pursuits. No stability, no real career path." She turned to the couple beside her. "Not like Gregory. He built his company from the ground up. Real estate development. Now that's a career." Gregory shifted uncomfortably. "Catherine, perhaps." "Oh, don't be modest, darling. You've done wonderfully well. Which is why we can afford to help the children, isn't it?" She looked back at David. "The apartment deposit, the car payments, Victoria's wardrobe. We're happy to help, of course. That's what family does." I felt David go rigid beside me. Catherine wasn't finished. "And William, may I call you Bill? Everyone does, don't they? William, you work in building maintenance. Is that right?" All eyes turned to me. This was the moment she'd been building to. The kill shot. I met her gaze. "That's right. How wonderful." Her smile was poisonous, honey. "Such important work. Someone has to keep the floors clean, don't they? Tell me, do you work in the same building where David used to visit you? Victoria mentioned you'd bring him to work sometimes when he was young. Showed him where Daddy mopped and emptied the bins. She was wrong. I'd never brought David to work at the tower, but the lie was strategic, painting a picture for everyone listening. "Buildings need maintenance," I said evenly. "Indeed they do. And it's honest work, I'm sure. Not glamorous, but honest." She turned to the table at large. "You know what I admire? People who know their place, who understand their station in life and don't reach above it." Her eyes flickered back to David. "It's when people get ideas beyond their means that problems arise." Victoria looked uncomfortable. "Mother, maybe we should talk about the auction items." "In a moment, dear." Catherine's voice hardened. "I'm just making a point. You married a sweet boy, darling, but let's be realistic. He takes pictures for a living. His father cleans toilets. And we," she gestured to herself and Gregory, "we've built something. Real wealth, real position. It's important to understand the difference." David's water glass rattled as he set it down too hard. "You see," Catherine continued, addressing the table like she was giving a lecture, "this is what happens when young people marry for romance instead of practicality. Victoria could have had anyone. Jonathan Pemberton was interested. You all know the Pembertons, the shipping fortune, but no, she chose this." The word hung in the air like smoke. "This," my son reduced to 2 syllables of contempt. "That's enough," David said, his voice low. "Is it?" Catherine's eyebrows rose. "I'm simply being honest. Look around this room, David. Do you see anyone else here who does what you do? Who comes from where you come from? You're here because of Victoria. Because we're generous enough to include you in our world. The least you could do is show some gratitude. I watched my son's face, watched him try to formulate words, watched the shame and anger war across his features. Victoria looked at her mother, then at David, then down at her plate. She said nothing. You know what the real tragedy is? Catherine picked up her champagne glass. Victoria's wasting her potential. She could be so much more than the wife of a struggling photographer. But she's stuck now, isn't she? Tied to someone who will never be able to give her the life she deserves. Someone whose father, no offense, William empties garbage bins for a living. That's when Gregory finally spoke. Catherine, that's too far. She ignored him, eyes locked on David. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. Look at you. That tuxedo is rented, isn't it? I can tell. The fit's not quite right. Meanwhile, Gregory spent $4,000 on his. That's the difference. That's what I'm talking about. David pushed his chair back. The screech of wood on marble cut through the music. I need some air, he muttered. Of course you do, Catherine said. Run away. That's what people do when they can't handle the truth. David walked out of the ballroom. Victoria stayed seated, her hand on her mother's arm, whispering something urgent. Catherine laughed. Oh, darling, don't be dramatic. I'm just being honest. Someone has to tell them how things really are. I stood up slowly, felt every eye at the table on me. Catherine looked at me with that same condescending smile. Leaving too, William? I understand. These events can be overwhelming for people not accustomed to. Excuse me, I said quietly. I need to make a phone call. I walked out of the ballroom with the same measured pace I'd used for 14 years of mopping floors and fixing broken elevators. No rush, no drama, just a man stepping away to make a call. The hall outside was marble and gold. Through the tall windows, Vancouver's skyline glittered. I found David on the terrace, hands gripping the railing, shoulders shaking. Dad, his voice broke. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry she said those things about you. Don't apologize for her, son. But the way she talked about you, about your job, what I do isn't shameful, I said. And what you do isn't either. You're a talented photographer. You work hard. You're kind. You're everything a man should be. He wiped his eyes. Then why does it feel like I'm never enough? Why can't I just give her what she wants? Because what she wants isn't you. I put my hand on his shoulder. That woman in there doesn't see people, David. She sees price tags. And Victoria, I paused. Your wife stayed seated. She didn't defend you. She didn't leave with you. She stayed with her mother. David's face crumpled. I love her, Dad. I know you do. I pulled him into a hug. Felt him shake against my chest like he had when he was 12, and his mother had just died. I know. We stood there for a moment, father and son, while inside 200 people ate expensive food and pretended not to talk about the scene they'd just witnessed. Go home, I said finally. Take tomorrow off. Rest. Think about what you want your life to look like. What about you? I have a phone call to make. I waited until David's Uber pulled away. Then I took out my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in 6 years. James? It's Bill Chen. I need you to do something for me. James Park had been my protege at Brightwater Capital. I'd mentored him, taught him everything I knew. When I stepped back, I'd recommended him for positions that eventually made him one of the most powerful. He owed me nothing. I'd never asked for anything, but he'd told me once, Bill, if you ever need anything, I'm there. Bill? My God. It's good to hear from you. What's going on? I need information. Gregory Thornhill, real estate developer, Vancouver area. His company is Thornhill Properties. I want to know everything financials, deals in progress, where the money comes from, where it goes. Thornhill? James paused. I know that name. Big player in the condo market. Why? Personal reasons. How fast can you get me details? For you? I'll have a preliminary report by morning. Thank you, James. Bill. He hesitated. Is everything okay? No, I said. But it will be. I hung up and stood in the night air for a long moment. 14 years of maintenance work had taught me patience. How to wait for the right moment to fix what was broken. Some things you could patch temporarily. Others needed to be rebuilt from the foundation up. Tomorrow, I'd start rebuilding. The next morning, James's email arrived at 6 a.m. 47 pages of financial analysis, deal structures, partnership agreements. I read every word while drinking coffee in my small apartment. Gregory Thornhill's empire was impressive on the surface. 3 major condo developments in Vancouver, 2 in Whistler, partnerships with international investors. The Thornhill name on luxury properties across British Columbia. But underneath, the foundation was cracking. His flagship project, Thornhill Towers, a 60-story luxury development in downtown Vancouver, was hemorrhaging money. Construction delays, cost overruns, investor disputes. He'd borrowed heavily to cover shortfalls, using other properties as collateral. And his primary lender was, I smiled when I saw the name Brightwater Capital. More specifically, a fund I still had voting rights in. I made 3 calls that morning. The first was to James, that Thornhill deal. The downtown towers. How much exposure does Brightwater have? About $90 million in the primary loan, plus another $40 in a secondary financing round. Why? What would happen if we called the loan? Silence. Then, Bill, that would destroy him. He can't cover that kind of call. He'd have to liquidate everything. Why would we? Just answer the question. Legally, can we call it? There are provisions. If he's in material breach of the loan covenants, yes. Let me check the agreement. I heard typing. Actually, yes. He missed 2 reporting deadlines. Technically, that's enough to trigger an acceleration clause. But Bill, we've never enforced that. It's standard business. Everyone misses reporting deadlines. Until someone decides to enforce them. You're serious. Dead serious. This is about more than business, isn't it? Yes. Another pause. What did he do? He and his wife humiliated my son. Publicly. Called his work worthless. Called me. I stopped. They called us both inferior. Made it clear we weren't worthy of their family. Jesus, Bill. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Just tell me if we call that loan. What happens? Complete collapse. He'd have to sell everything to cover even a fraction of it. His company would be finished. His reputation, well, in this industry, you don't recover from that kind of failure. He'd be ruined. And the investors? The people who bought pre-construction units? They're protected. Separate trust accounts. They'd get their deposits back, but the project would stall, might never get built. So the only person who really suffers is Gregory, and anyone whose lifestyle depends on his income. I smiled. Perfect. The second call was to my lawyer, a woman named Sarah Chen, no relation, who'd handled my estate planning. Sarah, I need you to do something unusual. I need you to file paperwork with the Land Title Office. I want my name added to the public record as a beneficial owner of certain investment vehicles, specifically anything connected to Brightwater Capital. Bill, you've spent years staying off the radar. Why surface now? Because I want someone to find something. Can you make it look like it's always been public record, just buried? That's ethically gray. But legal? Technically, yes. It's just disclosure. You have the right to be listed. Do it. The third call was to Victoria. William? She sounded surprised. Is everything okay? I wanted to apologize for last night, I said smoothly. The scene at dinner. I know it was uncomfortable. Oh, well, Mother was. She'd had a few drinks. You know how she gets. Of course. Actually, I was hoping to take you and David out for dinner. Make amends. Maybe tomorrow? That's very kind. But my treat. Somewhere nice. I insist. She hesitated. William, you don't have to. I want to. Family is important. Let me show you that there are no hard feelings. Pride is a strange thing. She couldn't resist the idea of the poor father-in-law treating them, probably planning to tell her mother about his pathetic attempt at generosity. All right, she said finally. That would be lovely. Wonderful. I'll make reservations. I booked a private room at Hawksworth, one of Vancouver's finest restaurants. Then I waited. The financial news broke 3 days later. Brightwater Capital calls $130M loan to Thornhill Properties. Read the headline in the business section. The article detailed the sudden acceleration of the loan, Gregory's inability to refinance, the pending foreclosure proceedings. My phone rang within hours. Dad? David's voice was confused. Did you see the news about Victoria's father? I did. How is she? Panicking. She's at her parents' house right now. Her mother is, well, apparently she's losing it. I imagined so. Dad, do you think this will affect the dinner tomorrow? I doubt it, but if it does, we'll reschedule. Victoria called that evening to cancel. I'm so sorry, William. It's just terrible timing. Father's having some business troubles, and I understand completely. Family comes first. Perhaps when things settle down. Yes. Thank you for understanding. I gave her a week. In that time, the news got worse for the Thornhills. Gregory was forced to list his properties. The Rosedale Country Club membership gone. The luxury cars repossessed. Catherine's jewelry quietly sold to cover immediate debts. Then James called. Bill, you need to know something. I did deeper digging into Thornhill's finances. There's fraud. Serious fraud. He's been inflating property values, misleading investors about occupancy rates, diverting funds from construction budgets to personal expenses. I've compiled everything and sent it to the appropriate authorities. How serious are we talking? Criminal charges serious. Securities fraud. If convicted, he's looking at 10 to 15 years. I felt a twinge of something. Not quite guilt. More like recognition that this was bigger than I'd intended. James, was the fraud necessary to know about? I mean, would it have come out eventually? Absolutely. The forensic accountants would have found it during the bankruptcy proceedings. I just expedited the timeline. This man was stealing from people, Bill. Retirees who bought pre-construction units. Small investors who trusted him. He deserves what's coming. That helped. This wasn't just revenge. It was justice. The charges were filed 2 weeks later. Gregory Thornhill, arrested for securities fraud and theft over $5,000. The news coverage was extensive. Photos of him being led from his office in handcuffs. Catherine, for once, had no comment for the cameras. David came to my apartment that night. Victoria left me, he said. I poured him a whiskey. Tell me what happened. She said. He laughed bitterly. She said she couldn't be with someone who couldn't support her, that her whole life is falling apart and she needs to focus on her family. Her mother is selling the house. They're moving to a smaller place. Victoria's trust fund, apparently her father set it up with money that's now being seized. She's got nothing, and she thinks you can't help her. Can I, Dad, be honest? I make $35,000 a year. I can't save her from this. Is that what you want to do? Save her? He looked at me. I wanted to love her, but she never loved me, did she? Not really. I was just, I don't know, a rebellion, a phase. Probably. The divorce papers came today. She wants it done fast. Doesn't want anything from me, she literally said. It's not like you have anything worth taking. I put my hand on his shoulder. I'm sorry, son. Don't be. He took a long drink. Honestly, I feel relieved. Is that terrible? No, it's honest. We sat in silence for a while. Dad, David said eventually, can I ask you something? Anything. This timing. Her father's company collapsing right after that dinner. That's quite a coincidence. I looked at my son, saw his mother's intelligence in his eyes. Yes, I said. It is. Did you? He stopped, started again. Who are you, Dad? I mean, I know you're my father. I know you work maintenance. But sometimes I feel like there's something I'm missing. This was the moment. 14 years of carefully constructed humility about to crumble. Do you remember when your mother got sick? I asked. Of course. I made a choice then. I chose to be present. To be there for her, for you. That meant walking away from my career. In finance. Yeah, you told me. You were let go. No. I took a breath. I was CFO of Brightwater Capital. I helped build it from a $20 million fund to a $2 billion operation. When I left, I retained my shares. Significant shares. I'm still a partner, David. A silent partner, but a partner. He stared at me. What? The maintenance job was therapeutic. After your mother died, I needed work that felt real, physical, simple. I needed to be present for you, not chasing the next deal. But I never gave up my voting rights. I never sold my stake. How much he stopped himself. Never mind. That's not the point. The point is, you let me think we were poor. We lived modestly. That was my choice. And the Thornhills. Gregory Thornhill's primary lender is Brightwater Capital. I made a call. One call. We accelerated his loan. Legal, within our rights, but devastating to him. The fraud that came to light afterward that was real. He did that himself. I just expedited its discovery. David stood up, paced to the window, came back. You destroyed him. Yes. Because of what Catherine said. Because of what she said. Because of how she made you feel. Because Victoria stayed seated while her mother humiliated you. I stood to face him. Because they made you apologize for being exactly who you should be, a good man doing honest work. Dad, He laughed suddenly, a sound caught between disbelief and something else. This is insane. Probably. Lee, you've been secretly rich this whole time? Secretly comfortable? I live simply because I prefer it. But yes, I have resources. Significant resources. And you used those resources to ruin my father-in-law because he was mean to us at a dinner party. When you put it like that, it sounds completely justified. David sat back down. They treated us like garbage, Dad, like we were beneath them. And all that time, you could have... He stopped. Why didn't you tell them? Why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted you to know your own worth, independent of money. I wanted you to build your life based on what matters: character, integrity, work ethic. If you'd known I had wealth, would you have worked as hard? Would you have developed your photography skills? Or would you have coasted? I don't know, he admitted. And the Thornhills, if they'd known who I really was, they would have treated you differently. Not because they respected you more, but because they saw dollar signs. Catherine would have been calculating inheritance. Gregory would have been pitching investment opportunities. You would never have seen their true faces. David was quiet for a long moment. Her true face, Victoria's. Yes, I married someone who valued me for all the wrong reasons and devalued me for the right ones. You married someone who didn't value you at all. He nodded slowly. What happens now? To Gregory, I mean. He'll stand trial. If convicted, and he will be. The evidence is overwhelming. He's looking at significant prison time. The house, the cars, the lifestyle, all gone. Catherine will have to adjust to a very different reality. Good. David's voice was hard. Is that wrong? To feel good about it? No. It's human. They hurt you. Hurt us. There are consequences to treating people as less than. They're learning that now. And Victoria? She'll rebuild. Find another man, probably. Someone with money this time, since that's clearly what matters to her. David picked up his whiskey glass, swirled it. You know what the weirdest part is? I don't miss her. I thought I would. I thought I'd be devastated. But instead, I just feel free. Good. But Dad, he looked at me seriously. This can't happen again. You can't go around destroying people who are rude to us. I don't plan to make a habit of it. I'm serious. What you did, it's huge. It's like something out of a movie. And yeah, maybe they deserved it, but it's not a sustainable approach to conflict resolution? Exactly. I smiled. Noted. He stayed the night, sleeping in his old room. In the morning, over coffee, he asked the question I'd been expecting. How much money are we talking about? Your stake in Brightwater? Current valuation? My shares are worth approximately $240 million. He choked on his coffee. Million? Plus various other investments. Real estate. Bonds. A few angel investments that paid off well. So we're comfortable. Very comfortable. And you work as a maintenance supervisor. I like the work. It's honest. It's real. And it keeps me humble. David laughed. Humble. Dad, you just took down a real estate empire because a woman insulted us. Well, nobody's perfect. We both laughed then. Real laughs. The kind that release tension and fear and confusion. What do I do now? David asked finally. I mean, do I keep doing photography? You do exactly what you want to do. Money should enable choices, not make them for you. If you love photography, keep doing it. If you want to try something else, try it. But David, I reached across the table, put my hand on his. Whatever you do, Do it because it matters to you, not because of what anyone else thinks, not because of what they can afford, or what they think you should be worth. He nodded. Can I ask one more thing? Of course. Why now? Why tell me now? Because you're 32 years old, because you're going through a divorce, because you're questioning your worth and your choices, and I needed you to understand you are enough. You have always been enough. And it has nothing to do with money and everything to do with who you are. His eyes got wet. Thanks, Dad. You're welcome, son. 3 months later, the trial concluded. Gregory Thornhill was convicted on 17 counts of fraud, sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Catherine's testimony during the trial was illuminating. She threw him under the bus at every opportunity, trying to paint herself as a victim of his deception. The judge wasn't impressed. Victoria's divorce from David was finalized. She moved to Toronto, where apparently she'd found work at a marketing firm. David heard through mutual friends that she was dating someone new, a lawyer, wealthy family. Good for her, David said when he told me. He meant it. As for David himself, he was thriving. The weight of pretending to be someone he wasn't, of constantly apologizing for his existence, had lifted. His photography business was growing. He'd landed a contract with a major Canadian tourism board. His work was being featured in galleries. And yes, I'd helped. Not with money, he'd refused that, but with connections. Introductions to people who appreciated talent over pedigree. Opportunities to show his work. The rest was all him. One evening, 6 months after the trial, we sat on my balcony overlooking False Creek. The sun was setting, painting the sky in oranges and purples. Dad, David said, I've been thinking about something. What's that? That night at the gala. When you got up to make that phone call. Did you know then? Did you know exactly what you were going to do? I thought about it. Honestly, no. I knew I was going to do something. I knew I wasn't going to let them get away with how they treated you, treated us. But the specifics came together as I dug deeper. Do you regret it? Do you? He considered. No. Does that make me a bad person? It makes you human. They hurt you. Actions have consequences. Gregory's fraud that was real. He stole from people. The fact that I triggered the investigation doesn't change what he did. And Catherine? She lost everything. She built her entire identity on money and status. She made her daughter believe love was secondary to wealth. She humiliated people for sport. Yes, she lost everything. But maybe, and I know this sounds callous, maybe that was the only way she'd ever learn that people aren't currency. David nodded slowly. You know what I learned? What? That my dad is kind of a badass. I laughed. I spent 14 years mopping floors. That's not exactly James Bond. No, it's better, because you didn't need to mop floors. You chose to. You chose simplicity. You chose to be present for me. And then, when someone threatened your family, you had the power to do something about it, and you did. He raised his beer bottle. Two badass dads who mop floors and topple empires. I clinked my bottle against his. To sons who know their worth regardless of what anyone else thinks. We drank and watched the sunset. The truth is, I didn't fight for revenge. Not really. I fought for the simple right of my son to exist without apologizing, to do work he loved without being shamed for it, to be valued for who he was, not what he could provide. I fought for the quiet dignity of honest work, for the idea that character matters more than cash flow, for the freedom to love someone without calculating net worth. And yes, I fought to show people like Catherine Thornhill that their cruelty has limits, that you can't build a life on looking down at others and expect it to last. Did Gregory deserve 12 years? Maybe not. But he deserved consequences. He built a house of cards on fraud and arrogance, and when it fell, he took his family's empire with him. Sometimes I think about that night, about Catherine's face as she ridiculed us, about Victoria's silence, about David's trembling hands, and I think about the phone call. One phone call. That's all it took. Not because I'm powerful though I am, not because I'm vengeful though I can be, but because I'm a father, and fathers protect their children. Sometimes with hugs and advice, sometimes with one well-placed phone call to the right person. I still work as a maintenance supervisor, still wake up at 5:30, still fix broken elevators and unclog drains. My coworkers don't know about Brightwater. They know Bill, the guy who brings donuts on Fridays and helps cover shifts when someone's sick. That's the person I choose to be. Humble, present, real. But when my family is threatened, when someone mistakes humility for weakness, well, then they meet the other Bill, the one who built empires and knows exactly how to dismantle them. David asked me once if I'd ever tell anyone the full story, if I'd ever let people know what I did. Why would I? I said. The people who matter you already know. The people who don't matter everyone else don't need to. But don't you want credit? Recognition? For what? Ruining a man's life? For protecting your son? That's not something that needs recognition, David. That's just what fathers do. He smiled. Not all fathers. No, I agreed. Not all of them. We left it at that. The last I heard, Catherine was living in a 2-bedroom apartment in Surrey, working part-time at a boutique. Gregory writes her letters from prison. She doesn't write back. Victoria is engaged to her lawyer. I saw the announcement in the society pages. Victoria Chen, daughter of Catherine Thornhill, to wed Jonathan Pemberton. The shipping fortune Catherine had mentioned at the dinner. Full circle. David saw it too. You know what's funny? He said. She's getting exactly what she wanted. Money, status, security. And you? I asked. What did you get? He thought about it. Freedom, self-respect, a father I'm proud of. He grinned. And a hell of a story I can never tell anyone. Pretty good trade-off. Yeah, he said. Yeah, it really is. Sometimes, late at night, I think about what I did, the magnitude of it. One man's empire, destroyed. One family's lifestyle, obliterated. All because they made the mistake of thinking humble meant weak. Do I feel guilty? Sometimes. In the quiet moments, when I'm alone with my thoughts, I wonder if I went too far, if there was a better way. But then I remember David's face that night, the shame in his eyes, the way he apologized for existing, and I remember Catherine's voice. People like you should know your place. No, I don't feel guilty. I feel like I did exactly what needed to be done. My son knows his worth now. He knows he doesn't need to apologize for honest work or humble beginnings. He knows that character matters more than capital, and that the measure of a man isn't in his bank account. That's the lesson Catherine Thornhill tried to teach him, though not the one she intended. And it's a lesson she learned herself, the hard way. I still mop floors, still fix elevators, still live in my modest apartment with its view of the water. But when I see my son now confident, successful, genuinely happy, I know I did the right thing. One phone call. That's all it took to remind the world that you don't measure a man by what he does for a living. You measure him by what he does for the people he loves.